The biggest gain of the new constitution is devolution. Because the fight in Kenya, the conflict and disagreement in Kenya, even violence that we have witnessed in Kenya has been due to issues of unequitable distribution of resources, unequitable distribution of power even, exclusion, marginalization. And devolution came in to address those challenges that have threatened the very existence of this country.
Devolution is now the governance system in this country, and for it to be effective and efficient, there is still required a lot of effort by all the stakeholders, all the key sectors, including development partners.
Our strategies are based on Kenya's strategy, and Kenya's strategy says devolution is at its center. And so for USAID, we've placed the support to the people and the government of Kenya in carrying out this grand challenge that's in front of them. We appreciate and recognize that the reforms that are inherent in devolution, bringing government closer to the people, having people being able to interact and have input into the decisions in front of their counties is incredibly important, and it's a big step.
When you're developing the CNDP, this is a document, a blueprint document for the Meru County, which people's aspirations are there. Because when you're developing it, it means that we went through the process of participation, public participation, where people's aspirations actually are entailed in that blueprint document. They underlie expectations. They actually, when you co-stand all programs and projects which they wanted, it was coming to roughly around 260, and the funding level was around 260 billion. And if you look at the allocations which we are given on a yearly basis, like Meru get, maybe when now it has been improved, it's around 80 billion. So if you compare the shortfall, what people's aspirations are, which were constant to around 260 billion and 40 billion, which are about to be received after the end of the 5 years, it really shows it's a drop in the ocean in terms of funding. If Andy didn't come in, probably would have been a big challenge, because I don't know how we would have developed, because it was a constitutive process. We required somebody to pay for conferences. We required somebody to pay for the accommodation for the staff when they are going out for the workshops. For the people, when you're even actually having the sensitizing the people or participating the people want to be reimbursed transports, who are coming to one point so that they can bring their own views, they can bring their own memorandums.
One of the main challenges is to do with the capacity of the staff, particularly when we talk of the program-based budgeting, which is relatively a new approach to budgeting, as opposed to the earlier approach, which was the line budgeting.
We had a scenario where Ahadi was engaging both arms of the government. So the Ahadi I think it took two steps. One was to provide consultants for the executive to assist them in actually preparing the program-based budgets and to train them. So they were trained, the treasury, people in the treasury were trained on how to do program-based budgets. The assembly was likewise also trained on what actually program-based budget look like, how they're supposed to analyze those program-based budgets, how they're supposed to scrutinize, again, in terms of now oversighting or implementing that budget, how are you supposed to get to know whether it has really, it is being implemented.
When His Excellency the Governor saw that we were struggling in putting up the performance contracting structures, he contacted US Ahadi. Very first thing that Ahadi embarked on was to put something in place which we had taken for granted, the performance contracting framework. We put up the framework in a consultative manner where the consultant led the discussions with the CEC members and the chief officers. Eventually we came up with an agreeable framework. After the framework was in place, now again the consultant trained the CECs and the CEOs on how to go about implementing the performance contracting.
When Ahadi came in, we were happy, first of all. They were very grateful, and we are still remaining grateful. And they asked us to identify some of the areas where they could help. And I think the first one was capacity building, saying, let's have some training done. Yeah? And we started with members of the county assembly, moved to the clerks, and eventually the staff.
After Ahadi training, after knowing our powers of our budget making and all that, this time there's what you call physical strategy paper. This is a paper, it's a planning paper that tells us how the budget will look like, the ceilings of every ministry. You know, when these guys, when they brought this budget, like for current financial year, when they brought the budget, there was no any single ministry that its ceilings was matching the ceilings of the physical strategy paper, which is against the law. But because of the hard training, we are bold enough to tell them, no, we can't look at this budget. Because the law is clear that the ceilings of the physical strategy paper must be the same with the ceilings of the main budget. And if that changes, they must be accompanied with a memorandum.
I remember when they were doing the finance bill, we were at Yala that particular time. We waited for them, they never showed up. The day they were supposed to show up, they showed up 3 days later. At 4 in the evening, it was raining, and they stayed there for only 25 minutes. People were so chaotic, they left.
The capacity building initiative that has been undertaken between the Assembly and USAID Ahadi has really had a very great impact in our processes, because when we joined this Assembly, we were operating without any frameworks. We were just coming to work and working without any frameworks.
After the training, we were able to develop a framework which is in line with the Act and the Constitution, which now enable us to be able to engage effectively with the members of the county, generally the citizenry of the country.
To the best of my knowledge, the first 2013, 2014, 2015, basically the budget was basically an MC affair. He'd come, call his cronies, discuss, then his input is what was the alpha and omega, what was going to be implemented.
But over the last, say, 1 year or so, 1.5, I think there's been a lot of change. We've seen a lot of transparency. We've seen a lot of engagement, especially the ones that are calendar-based, especially like the budget.
Intergovernmental Relations Technical Committee is a statutory body established under Intergovernmental Relations Act 2012 as a mediator between the county and national government. We are also the implementers of the resolutions of the summit and the Council of Governors. Whatever decision they make, the committee, IGRTC, is the implementer. The law anticipated that the funding of IGRTC will be done by the government, but came 2 years late. The initial preparatory work that we required done was supported by Ahadi USAID. A preparatory work was, for example, to establish the institutional capacity of the IGRTC. And that would begin with a strategic plan. That was also funded by Ahadi USAID.
Council of Governors is an intergovernmental organization that brings all the county governments, the executive arm of the county government, together to provide the leadership that is required to carry out the mandates of the devolved governments. And the COD provide the coordination that is required. It also serves as the interface between the national government and the county governments. One of the key partners in assisting the Council of Governors deal with these challenges has been Ahadi. Ahadi has helped us, especially in the area of policy formulation, helping us come up with relevant legislations that we push the county assemblies to pass to help entrench devolution, assisting us build capacity at the Council of Governors level to have the right skills for various departments to be able to manage the mandates that we have at the county level. The support of Ahadi has been invaluable.
What we call committee clerks in various committees, and also the legal, some of the lawyers who have come on board to support the committees. They support the Committee of Agriculture, they support staff in the Committee of Natural Resources, they support staff, they support like 3 lawyers. Then they also support our Marifa Center, the manager of the Marifa Center, the Knowledge and Learning Center.
County Assemblies Forum, CAF, is a body established under the Societies Act, which is basically a society that brings together 47 county assemblies of the Republic of Kenya. We did establish this as a few like-minded speakers when we came to the office for purposes of comparing notes and developing standardized procedures, because there had not been devolved legislatures before and nobody knew what is supposed to be done. We have had Ahadi supporters both in technical support and financial support. And this support has led into institutionalization of CAF. Ahadi then, after establishing the secretariat, went ahead to support us both financially and technically to come up with a strategic plan. And the strategic plan outlines fundamental pillars of the kind of institution we would like CAF to be, both now and years to come.
There was lack of understanding of what exactly do we need to do as an assembly. The MCAs themselves didn't understand, their staffers were not clear, the executive were not clear, the publics, members of the public, in fact the noise initially, who are these MCAs, what are they doing? So there was a very big misunderstanding almost from everybody on what exactly assemblies were doing. It was an assessment that was helping us reflect, even check who has been giving you training, how could you assess that training, including CPST there, because we knew providers were many. What have you gained? What could you have done? What could you have gained differently? Where are you at now? And that's why we're talking to members and staff. It was a very tedious exercise. We now know, like in an area, how we will cluster. Because generally we train counties, especially CAM 2017, in clusters, geographical clusters. We will know what issues are more prominent in that region, what issues are prominent in the coast, northeastern, western, central, Nairobi, wherever. So we do know how to engage in a more structured, more organized manner.
This State Department is mandated with providing policy leadership. That entails initiation of policy, development, formulation, coordination, and just ensuring that there is an effective framework for making devolution work. The department itself underwent almost what we'd call an implementation challenge, whereby we were shifting from being local government to State Department of Devolution. And we needed to re-engineer or gear ourselves away from our local government inspection function to more of a policy and a coordination function. And that required a paradigm shift, even a mindset change amongst ourselves as employees. And through the support of AHADI, we were able to get resources to take us through a re-engineering process. We were able to get a consultant on board to help us take opportunity and to understand our new mandate.
The key challenge for us was the lack of county structures. We just came in through election, and then the transition period was very short, and there were no, that normal handing over what has been there in place before, what should be done. So everything was a bit confused. As a result, there were no policies in place. All the related national policies for arid lands or ASL areas were in terms of drafts. So there was a challenge of policies, challenge of related structures that were not in place. So this was a key challenge for us.
AHADI have actually assisted us in coming up with a policy. We did not have a policy in place, but we had that vision to have a policy. And AHADI came in to support us in the policy, coming up with the policy. What AHADI has done is they have given us a consultancy, lawyers, experts who are good in coming up with the policy.
The support is in in-kind grant, in terms of no actual money was given to the county, but in terms of the technical support and with regards to procurement of the necessary technical skills and expertise to come up with these policies and the legislation.